It's really funny. Merab is one of those fighters that it's just he's really fun to watch outside of the octagon. He's kind of the ringleader with this whole Aljo thing. If you really look at the behind the scenes, he's having a good time with it. I think that he's one of those guys where, if you're not the one fighting him, you can have a good time with it, right? Falling into lakes and missing fights. I think Cody Stamann and him have some bad blood. But, Merab kind of has this really fun, loving aspect to him, which makes him a little hard to hate. But again, if you're the guy fighting him, missing fights, stuff like that, it probably catches up to you. So, in this fight, even just in terms of steering away from how we usually do things, I would almost say the first takedown here is probably going to dictate something, right? If one guy is able to get the other guy to the ground in what is, pretty much equal 80 to 80% takedown defense, it's going to dictate a lot of the fight, right? That Merab comes in with these amazing leg kicks. The guy landed 30 on Dodson. So for me, if you're able to land those, and Dodson's a natural fighter. He's a much smaller guy, but landing 30 leg kicks perfectly, 30 for 30 is just a huge deal for me. And I think that in this case with Cody Stamann, who likes to plant and throw, good boxing, not as well developed as Jimmy Rivera's, which is what we saw in his fight against Jimmy, but he was able to incorporate some of the things that kept the fight close. Some judges even gave him that second round. He's able to kind of close the distance. He's able to use some of his striking. And in this case, it's going to be avoid those leg kicks, right? Don't let your power shots, diminish based on those things. I think Merab's going to constantly be looking for leg kicks and pushing the fight forward into the clinch, looking for takedowns, using that wrestling. Because the one thing I want to give Merab a lot of credit for is in terms of his actual overall game, having such good leg kicks, having the wrestling to then go to Ray Longo and make this your home and pull all that together. He's one of those guys that's really, really fun to watch because if MMA is a chess game, Merab has one of the really most coolest styles that you can kind of see a start and finish in his fights, right? So if you're a guy that's going against that, again, avoid that wrestling, avoid that leg kick, and especially early because he's going to start really picking away at you. And I think Cody will have that ability, but again, it's getting into that boxing range for him, avoiding some of the wrestling, being able to use the clinch work, getting away from the fence, little things like that. Because again, if maybe Cody wants to surprise him and maybe put him against the fence and take him down real quickly, use some of his own wrestling, maybe that dictates a little bit. He can use some of the ground and pound to kind of, put some of his own licks together. Because the one thing I really want to say is I find this fight so close. I think Cody's going to be the better overall striker. But again, Merab's kicks are powerful. They land. And I think that's a big thing. And I just said, when you see what a fighter can put together from start to finish, Merab working you down with leg kicks, chops you down, softens you up. Then he's able to get you up against the fence or even an open space and wrap those legs or get a good body lock. He'll take you down with technique. And right now, I have to say he's had one of the most underrated 2020s that nobody's really talking about, right? When you look at just the overall record, I have it written down here, let alone his undefeated 2020, it's Casey Kenny, Gustavo Lopez, and John Dodson. Those are big fights to me. And I think that's where you're looking at a Cody Stamann fight who's coming off of that Jimmy Rivera. And Merab's getting really, really close to that top five-ish territory where he's going to start, turning some heads to that contender picture, title picture, because this is going to be a big fight for him. And if he comes away with that dub, poor Stamann for one, but at the same time, Merab's really turning into that huge contender that people have been waiting to see. And, unfortunately for that injury, we didn't get to see both these guys in action a little bit more over the last, 6 months or so. But again, Cody Stamann, I think the boxing in close is going to make a big difference. I think that's where we really just see how good he is in comparison because, I think that especially with the catching of kicks, checking them, these are areas where you can get good. And if he's able to avoid them, let's see if he's able to pull it off because as you can tell with my tone of voice, do I think that Stamann's the underdog? For sure. So let's check it out. Wow. Okay. So Merab's coming in at a minus 250 opening and probably sticking around there with minus 265 and minus 275 on some sites. Cody Stamann, plus 185 opening and plus 210, plus 215 on some sites. I'm a little surprised by that line, but I guess maybe I've got some goggles on here. Merab seems to be the very safe pick here in terms of the overall wrestling and the leg kicks. And like I said, if MMA is a chess game, this guy's doing a very, very good job in building his start and end. And you could know how a fighter's going to fight, and he can be putting a lot of pieces together when it comes to his start to finish. But It's a really impressive start to finish so far. And I think last year he proved that he belongs in that top 10, and he's getting a fight right now to prove if he believes in the top 5. And Cody Stamann has to play gatekeeper. And, I think he's up to the challenge. So we should be looking at what could be another fight of the night.